Thank you, everybody. Well, this is lovely. Come in. I'm very pleased to see that all those people hiding at the back have sort of integrated and feel more the love. Thank you. And hello to those people online. Nice to see you back. Congratulations. You have got this far. You're in the final stage. There's only two presentations left between you and drinks. So relax and enjoy. What we've done today, someone said to me in the break that there's been a lot of AI today. There has. I apologize for that. Next year, I think there's not going to be so much AI because it's either going to be built in and you don't see it. But I doubt we'll be throwing it up. We might ask the question that we've asked before again. Now, there is a little bit more AI on this, and I'll call up our two presenters today. We're going to get Adrian, if you want to come up, and who have we got? Aaron. Sorry, no, Aaron. So you can come up. You'll be doing a two-hander. I'm going to leave it over to you how to do that. But what we've done here is this is basically, for those people who might have gone to the non-AI sessions, just to give you a bit of a feel for where it's at and how it's going. So it's an exploration. It's not meant to be definitive. It's a bit of a primer to Sarah, who will then do the panel discussion at the end. And now that you're all close together, I know all those questions you've been burning to ask all day will bubble to the surface and we'll get to see them. So at that, are you starting off?
I am starting off.
Okay,
yeah.
So in your role, actually, I should dub you in. You were a former member of the council, yes, years ago, and now prominent consultant with Kemp. And if you want to know more about, check the website, check the panel. But otherwise, I'll hand over to Adrian.
Perfect. No, thanks, Robert, and good afternoon, everyone. My apologies that I haven't been at all the other AI sessions. So if I say or do anything this afternoon that you've already heard before, my apologies. But look, before we kick off, I do want to get a bit of a feel for how many of you guys are using AI actively. So can you just stick your hand up if you have used an AI tool? Just go and stick your hand up. I'm sure most of you have used an AI tool, right? Now, keep your hand up if you've used it in the last week. Oh, there we go. You guys are all active users. This is fantastic. I'm not going to be able to tell you anything that you don't already know. What about every day this week? Okay, that's good. Do you have an AI tool on your phone? So stick your hand, no, can't put your hand up once you put it down. So these guys all have it on your phone. Have you used it on your phone today? I hope so, because, oh, okay, yep. So we're only down to a few now. Now, the last question I have for you is, do you use the voice version of AI? And my other question, which I won't ask. There you go, thanks. Yeah, no, fair enough. I've used the voice version today. Look, the reason why I asked that is that I was at an energy conference actually earlier this year, and they asked that question in this energy conference room, 1,000 people, conference dinner. And basically, no one had their hand up at the end. They didn't go down to voice. But the key punchline that they made there was that the energy sector doesn't know what's going to hit them in terms of energy demand, given that the people in that room weren't using it because there is so much opportunity. And I think that's actually telling for all of us, because I think if I was to forecast, and we all love forecasting, if I was to forecast, I expect that we will all be using AI in some way, shape and form in the future. In fact, you are now every time you use a Google search, right? So in that sense, I think it's sort of a little bit imperative for all of us to think carefully about, well, where are the advantages and disadvantages? You know, what are the governance and privacy and even environmental implications of using these technologies? But the important thing that I think of is that it is just another tool, right? I like to say that Claude joined Kemp, our economic consulting firm, last year. Now, I know it's not a real person, okay? But it feels a bit like it. But keep in mind that R joined Kemp back when we started in 2014 to help me do statistical work. Garobi joined Kemp as well, actually a while ago, because CPLEX was always really slow. In other words, technology is always changing. These are all tools, and they're all tools that economists can use effectively to help us do what we do every day, even better than perhaps what we've done before. Now, I'm going to try, and this is, I have to say, something that I hate doing. I'm going to try and do a live demo. I'm going to try and do a live demo with Claude. Hi, Claude. I'm just standing in front of a group of economists. I need to do a presentation on the benefits of AI. Can you help me? It's going to be slow today, isn't it? Because you guys probably all have your phones on. It sort of beeps a bit. I'm hoping it's going to get stuck.
Help you highlight AI's economic benefits like productivity gains,
Okay.
cost reduction, and new market creation. What specific angle do you want to focus on for this audience?
Claude, why don't we focus a little bit on productivity gains? How can it help an economist increase their productivity? It is slow though, isn't it? But if you remember when computers first came around, they were slow too.
Speed up econometric modeling.
Okay.
And help with literature reviews and forecasting. Economists can focus on interpretation rather than data processing tasks.
So we're all going to be interpreting. Data processing is going to be elsewhere. Okay, well, look, what about skills atrophy? That's a real concern, right? We're worried about people not being able to get skills. What do you say about that, Claude? Nice view.
Skills atrophy is a valid concern. But AI works best when economists maintain their core analytical thinking and use AI as a powerful tool rather than a replacement.
This is a great way to do a
How do you think your
presentation, by
colleagues
the way.
view this balance?
Well, what suggestions do you have to ensure that people don't lose their economist skills? Actually, this is quite a good answer if it repeats what I said before.
Assisted and manual analysis.
There you go.
Practice core methods regularly and use AI to handle routine tasks while focusing human effort on complex interpretation and theory development. What resonates most with your audience?
I don't know what resonates most, guys. Maybe about maintaining core reasoning and thinking. Yeah.
Emphasize that AI
I find Claude
computation,
hugely reaffirming.
designing studies and drawing meaningful conclusions from results. Should we talk about specific examples they could relate to?
No, Claude, why don't you just say thank you to the audience and why using AI for an economist is a fantastic thing to do.
Thank you all for your attention today. AI represents an incredible opportunity for economists to amplify their analytical power and focus on what they do best, generating insights that drive economic understanding and policy.
Okay, so if you haven't used the voice version, use it. Because it's interesting, right? I am fortunate. I do drive in and out of the city. My apologies for the pollution associated with that. But it is not unusual for me on my way home to actually, if I've got a particular problem, I could call up one of my colleagues and have a discussion, but I don't. I talk to Claude. It puts a list of things for me to think about later. Now, it's just a tool. It's no different to talking to yourself. But in that sense, it's still a clever tool. And I guess the way that I think about it is that it's very much giving me what I would normally and ordinarily expect from my more junior staff members in their years 1 to 3. In terms of when Robert first asked me to do this presentation today, he was keen for me to talk about how we are using it. Now, we are using principally Claude. We first started by looking mostly on it as a drafting assistance tool. And for those of you who have used AI tools, you would know that it's quite good at doing that. But of course, it gets things wrong. It can hallucinate and the like. And there are tricks and techniques and things that you can do to sort of make that better. But at the end of the day, it's very much an assistance to us. It's no different to me asking a more junior staff member to write something. They'll probably get it wrong. They'll get it to about 60 to 80%. And then I will take that over and turn that into something that is of the quality that we want coming out of our firm. And in essence, that's exactly what is one of the core things that AI tools can do very effectively. Now, you would have heard Claude talk a little bit then about data analysis and data techniques. In my view, at this stage, these tools are not good at that. They're language models. We are actually better at data analytics as humans. I think that will probably change as these tools develop. But in terms of training a junior person to be able to become very effective very quickly at coding in R, there is nothing better. Because of course, as we know, ChatGPT in particular is the better tool for that. These tools were built by coders to help coders to code. And so as a consequence, if you're building big macro models, big micro models, optimization models, these tools ensure that humans end up developing their skills more rapidly than I have ever seen before in terms of expectations. And of course, that also applies to drafting. But my biggest concern is, of course, the one that I asked Claude. How do we actually get people to learn skills? I've been fortunate enough to learn how to solve a Hamiltonian by hand, but of course I probably couldn't do it now because I just use software to solve optimization problems. But at the same time, how do you train someone to develop critical analytical thinking? And I think that's a core question for all of us. And the question I posed in the last AI session was somewhat similar to that. It's the idea, and what is the risk to economists who are already often fighting policymakers, governments and the like in terms of please listen to us about our analytical ideas or recommendations in regards to policy development? How do we ensure that they don't cut us out? Because of course these tools can come up with seemingly credible answers, but which we would argue are incorrect. So look, lots of questions, no real answers. But what I do know, of course, is that it's the sort of thing that we're all going to have to understand in more detail. I'll just end on the point that we do use it for drafting. We absolutely use it in terms of coding. We are looking at, and I would love the day, and in fact, it will be a game changer when you can use a large language model on an unstructured data set and ask it questions. We're, I think, a fair way off that, but we'll see. I suspect it's by fair way off, I probably mean 2 to 3 years. And as I said before, the question there becomes, well, if the CEO can ask an unstructured data set what information they want, why do they need the analyst to do that? So I think it is going to raise some really, really interesting questions, but of course that's where experience comes in. Anyway, I'll stop there. I'll hand over to Aaron, who's going to do a separate demo, but we'll talk further on the panel.
How's that? That's better. Great. So I think most people in this room will have a fairly good understanding of the ways you can use AI in terms of this language processing and reasoning. You can ask right now a ChatGPT to produce a CBA for you, and it will have a go at it. What will it do? It will generate a big wall of text for you with, I think, some reasonable sounding numbers, but it's not very useful like that. And so just now we spoke a bit about structure. And for those who are not aware of some of the things that you can do with AI, one of the really cool things is accessing an API where you're not just chatting with this, but you're telling it the structures that you want to have back and get it to populate that. And so I've developed a platform that makes a lot of use of this system. It's called structured JSON. And if you tell it in certain ways that we need a various amount of inputs, various amount of outputs, and the data types that they should come back in, you'll get, I think, something that most of us here, if we develop CBAs, love, which is a nicely structured model. So what I want to do, we did a demo earlier on that went into much more detail, and we ran around the room and did a quick poll on what we thought we could maybe model like this. Let's have a go of it. And we did a demo, and somebody suggested, they were sitting over this side of the room, I'm not sure if they're still there now, potentially we could model with this tool that we've created, a CBA for implementing electric buses in New South Wales. So we took that prompt and we were able to develop a fairly high-level CBA from that. So I'll share my screen in a moment, and we'll just explore the model that we're able to create there. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So if you have to think about the traditional process that you follow when you develop a CBA, usually you're gathering the specifications from your client or stakeholders. You're coming together, you're agreeing on those, and then you sort of set off and you go and do the modeling, and you come back and you review. And if everyone's happy with that, maybe you'll do some more detailed modeling and you go from there. What Reschematic allows you to do, Reschematic being the name of this platform, is have a lot of really early conversations because it can generate a model quickly. But I think the main benefit of it, and I really want to stress this, is not doing CBAs faster, because as you'll see, it doesn't replace a fully fledged detailed CBA, nor do I think it will do that anytime soon. But what it does do really well is allow you to generate a model quickly, sit around a table with your stakeholders or on a call, and get very quick alignment on the project that you're modeling and some scenarios that you might experience. That allows you to identify opportunities and risks really early rather than them sort of coming to light at the end of the project. So now that we're sharing a screen, this is the CBA that we constructed earlier on in the main demonstration. Now, obviously, there's a lot to take in on the screen here, and we haven't gone through the onboarding flow, and it's also really blurry, which doesn't help. But when we get back into HD, we'll see that on the bottom left, there are a whole range of costs that are associated with this project. And all we really gave it to get to this point is this prompt here: develop a program for zero emission buses to reduce carbon emissions. And initially it came back and it said, okay, we should look at a range of costs here. How about marketing and outreach expenses for the program? Again, sorry, it's really blurry. Initial development costs for the program itself, the administration, capital expenditure for the buses. And I might add, it didn't actually have that in there initially. Somebody asked a question, why doesn't it have the cost of the buses in there? And we added that after. It's got the cost of maintaining the buses and some ongoing administrative costs as well. So that's all mapped out for the first 25 years of this program. And as you can see, there's sort of a 5-year development period. Again, really sorry that it's so blurry. Trust me, there's a 5-year development period with 20 years of operations. That's on the cost side. So on the benefit side, we can see a range of different things here as well. So environmental benefits from reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and then some increased patronage and improved air quality, leading to a social impact. Now, for each of these, we can actually see on the right-hand side, when we click one, what they are attached to in terms of assumptions. So, for example, the environmental benefits are attached to avoided GHG emissions, multiplied by the carbon value and some growth rate. Now, these are assumptions that are provided to us in the first instance. We go through and validate them. I think as a room earlier, we're reasonably happy with these. But if you wanted to update them, it's as easy as, for example, if we think this avoided GHG emissions value is too high, we can just come in and update that from 200 to 100 and see how that affects the results. So hopefully you can see how you can very quickly have a conversation around getting agreement on some of these numbers. So as economists, I mean, this is really built. I tried to empathize with a user who's maybe not done many CBAs themselves before. But if you're really familiar with it, there's a more advanced mode, and you can also add in discounting, see visually immediately what impact that will have at the rate that's set internally. You can see a timeline of these and all the data tables for that, which you can download to CSV and create your own charts with and whatever you need to as well. So this was, I just want to emphasize, like, we built this CBA in, it was about 15 minutes. So is it perfect? No, but maybe with another 15 minutes or half an hour of refining, it would tell a pretty good story, I think. And from there, We can also branch out multiple different scenarios, which I often like to think about things that are not so easy to do in Excel and how we could automate that on the platform. And one of those is taking, it's really blurry here, but trust me, on the left-hand side, we can select between different scenarios. And we actually created a second scenario in the demo earlier that was around launching a pilot program for these buses. So in that case, the full program has 100 buses, what we're looking at right now. The pilot program has just 10. And so we can switch between those and see what the difference is between those. And if we're happy with all this, we can also get a link to the model and share it, even if a user is not a subscriber to the platform or does not have a login, they can access the link and play around with all the numbers as well. So that's kind of the main overview. There was one, I can't see Robert here, but there was one other thing he asked me to show, and that was in his session earlier on renewing our look into CBA modeling for the cigarette bans. He asked us to model this replacement case where you're taking current cigarette smokers and implementing a marketing campaign where they would start vaping instead of smoking. And so looking at the costs and the benefits of that. So just within Robert's sort of half an hour that we had for the talk there, created this one. So again, it's really the same sort of thing, but in this case, we're looking at developing a government health program to substitute, oh, you can't read it, can you? To substitute cigarette smoking for vape smoking. So again, same style of model where you have the initial development period or implementation period, and then a long tail of benefits and revenue after that. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of the platform and what it can do currently. There's lots of different use cases for it. So these are CBAs, but there are other clients using it currently for return on investment analysis as well. So smaller companies and consultancies that need to demonstrate the value of their work. So yeah, lots of different use cases. Probably a good time to ask some questions, and maybe we can play around with a few things in the model as well.
You get the chance again because both these session presenters will be in the panel. But is anyone going pre-panel questions for anyone? Right.
These guys are straight on for it. Yeah.
Do you have a feature in the UI that enables you to show, I guess, like compare the options if you've got various options relative to a base case?
To basically overlay them? And,
yeah.
Yeah. So not currently. The way to do it right now is just to switch between them. But that's absolutely something on the list. Yeah.
Can you see the workings that are happening behind the model? How do you look at that?
Yeah. Were you in the demo session this morning? No. Yeah. So one of the key objections that you get at a platform like this is the black box objection, right? If this is all done by AI and it's all managed, how can I see the calculations? So it's a really common question. And so right now, you can see the connections between all the assumptions and impacts, and you can also get these data tables as well, which you can sort of manipulate a little bit on the platform. And you can also download that too. So there's full visibility around that. And there's also clear documentation on the ways that the calculations are being performed in the background.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions for Adrian or? Oh yeah, we do. Sure.
Hey, Aaron, I was wondering what data it used to work out the productivity from a healthier population. Like, does it have evidence that vaping is healthier than smoking? And what?
Does it have evidence? What, sorry?
That vaping is better than smoking. Like, how does it come to that huge conclusion, which is the most difficult thing? Just out of interest.
So let's have a look, right? So I haven't inspected this one in detail. This is pretty much what it gave us right from the outset. So if we click on increase productivity, now I'm going to answer your question by finding out myself, right? So it's looked at a few things here. So it's calculated the value per work hour, reduced absenteeism. No laptops were destroyed here. Monthly growth rate in that, and then basically it's taken an assumption of the number of smokers switching due to the program, right? And given some estimates on how it's done that. But that qualitative argument around therefore there is actually a benefit to this is, I think, something that a user would bring from their own internal experience. So one would assume that if you're evaluating this program, you've probably done some of that research in-house, and you could maybe call from that expert and update some of these numbers. And then the other thing to emphasize is that none of the users on the platform are alone at the moment. I provide a lot of guidance, onboarding, expert review as well, to make sure that there's like internal validity in these models and they all make sense. And that's a really important part of it. And if you weren't there for the demo this morning, I'm a big proponent of not just automating everything with AI, but having a human in the loop. I think it's something that's really important, not just for this, but for most AI operations.
Are there any more questions? I know we're getting to it, and there's another opportunity. Like I said, that presentation was really to get people an idea of where good practice is at the moment. And again, I keep saying, is there another tool that I could look at that does what yours done right at the moment? No. So that's one of the reasons we're seeing this. And I do like everyone's questions, but you've also got to realize the inputs that go in this are tiny. You put in tiny bits of straw, and I was saying gold of whatever type, fool's gold, real gold, gold plated comes out, and you can then work and do things with that. And I'd like to say Sam was the person who introduced us to start that. And I think what was it? Yeah, what was the one you did? Were you on? So anyone who would like to have a look at a wild pig bounty program, come and talk later.
I still have that on here somewhere.
That could have been.
I won't bring it up now, but yeah. So we evaluated the cost benefit analysis of, or the cost benefit ratio of implementing a feral pig bounty in regional New South Wales. So it just goes to show the sort of myriad ways that you could use it, and lots of different projects you could use it on.
Yeah. And it comes up with, you get it very far very quickly, I suppose, is what works.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll have a short break. So like I said, we have one last session to close.